Meteorologist Pete Mangione joins us live once again from our weather yard, which is right outside of our East Providence studios. And Pete's got the coat on now. Is the rain still coming down? And it looks like the wind is maintaining its intensity. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, guys. And downpour right now. And see, these are some of the strongest wind gusts that I've been out since we've started this morning. And over the past hour, I mean, a lot has really changed. We're seeing numerous reports now starting to come in of strong wind gusts of 60, 65 miles an hour. That's easily strong enough to bring down the trees and the power lines. We've had numerous reports of power outages, and we have the sideways rain going right now, which obviously is not a pleasant thing to feel. You're going to be encountering that if you try to go outside for today. And we've been talking about that this will be a long duration event, so even though maybe that weak tree in your backyard is doing okay right now, we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, we're going to be going like this all afternoon, possibly stronger with the winds, so we could see additional branches and trees flying around. We'll have more updates for you coming up in just a few minutes. Now, back to you guys.
All right, it is now about 8:45. We've been on the air since 5 a.m. We're going to stay on the air throughout the morning and the day here on Eyewitness News. We want to get the latest on the storm's track because Irene, as of 8 o'clock, was still a hurricane.
Yep, barely clinging to the to the Category 1 status. Wondering if it's been changed now to a tropical storm, or are we still in a hurricane mode, Michelle?
We are still at a hurricane. In fact, it's a Category 1, now barely a hurricane. But we've been talking last couple of days, whether it was a tropical storm or a hurricane, it doesn't really change the situation here for not only our area, but much of the Northeast. And I expect right now that this hurricane is actually making its closest pass to New York City at this moment. You can see it's just racing up to the north and east. It's expected to cross Long Island here in about, well, I'd say any moment now, and then into Long Island Sound and eventually into Connecticut here over the next hour or two. So as we continue here with the headlines, this first high tide has led to some moderate flooding. We're getting reports of coastal roads being washed out and shut down for the time being. And we're going to watch very closely to see if the second high tide this evening produces an even higher storm surge. It's forecasted to do that right now. We are still under a tornado watch. Now we've got a couple of lines of very heavy downpours with some damaging winds included in that we're watching move across Rhode Island right now. And again, Irene making its approach to New York City. This is the line that we are concerned about right now. Not necessarily for tornadoes, but for damaging winds. It has a history of producing 65-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it stretches all the way from northeastern Connecticut down across Narragansett Bay through Newport and then into the water south, and it's moving to the north and east. So it's basically taking a path that takes it right up through Providence and then into the outer boroughs, and if it can hold together into the Boston area as well. Again, 55 to 65-mile-an-hour gusts just in this little line here. And what I'm doing is paying very close attention to some of these radar signatures because we want to make sure that a weak tornado doesn't happen in one of those lines. Now, we don't see any sign of it yet, but we are under a tornado watch. The area most at risk of seeing one would be right along the coastline. Now, this is typical in landfalling hurricanes to have a few isolated tornadoes. If you paid attention to the news yesterday, there were reports of some to our neighboring states south and west of us. And so a tornado here is certainly a possibility as well. They're typically very weak and they don't last long, but there's the risk of them nonetheless. So this is Hurricane Irene, a lot of dry air wrapping in on the backside of the storm. I mean, it's wrapped all the way down so that most of New Jersey now, the rain has really shut off, which is good news for them. They picked up in spots more than a foot of rain, but we are dealing with this very heavy rain moving in. The worst of it for us in terms of the rainfall is this morning. It should quickly wind down as we head into this afternoon and this evening, though, and another isolated band of rain past, say, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon certainly possible. So 75-mile-an-hour winds right now. If it were to drop down below 74 miles per hour, it would be categorized as a tropical storm. Winds at gusting to 90 miles an hour, moving to the north-northeast at 22 miles per hour. And as of 8 o'clock, it was just 29 miles south of New York City. Let's take a look at the path here and the wind field. And boy, the model was spot on here, bringing in at the 8 o'clock hour these 60-plus-mile-an-hour wind gusts as we have seen through the southwestern part of the state. And here's the hurricane force winds just to our south and west. So Connecticut, Long Island dealing with it, parts of New York City. We're going to come close to seeing some hurricane force wind gusts, but I think for the most part, we're going to end up probably just below that, maybe 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds. But the high tide underway, the storm pushing all of the water up to the coast, up Narragansett and Buzzards Bay. And the result for us is that we have had that coastal flooding. Now, high tide going back out now. We're going to be approaching the low tide at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then the tide will switch again, and we'll see the high tide at about 8 o'clock this evening. So we'll have to watch for that second high tide to perhaps produce a storm surge of as much as 3 to 7 feet. Today, this morning's high tide was, we were forecasting only a 2 to 4 foot storm surge. All right, so the hurricane warning expected to continue for the coast all throughout the daytime. Tropical storm warning in our inland areas. We're also under a flood watch. This is for rainfall related flooding. We have seen those heavy downpours. In fact, we are expecting as much as 4 to 8 inches of rain in the northwest corner of the state out to Connecticut, and about 2 to 4 inches. Now, isolated higher amounts possible. So far, over the last actually 24 hours, we picked up about 1.5 inches in Smithfield, over 1 inch now in Providence. We've got almost 1.75 inches in Groton, and slightly lesser amounts as you head towards Newport and New Bedford. The winds, they continue to pick up. We've got a 37-mile-an-hour sustained wind in Providence right now, and the gusts, again, very high. We've got a 50-mile-an-hour wind gust in Providence, so we're in those tropical storm force winds right now, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on just how high these wind gusts go, but we have had reports of anywhere between 60 and 65-mile-an-hour winds. The track brings it up into western Connecticut by 2 o'clock this afternoon with tropical storm force winds, but high-end tropical storm force winds, and we're talking 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning before the winds drop below damaging potential. So the timing for today, for the morning hours, bands of heavy rain, 30 to 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds, gusts to 65, surge of 2 to 4 feet this morning. This afternoon, the rain begins to taper off, but the winds hit their peak in the afternoon hours, and they're still going strong this evening. The second high tide, again, a 3 to 6 foot storm surge in Narragansett, a 4 to 7 foot storm surge in Buzzards Bay. Back to you.